God here, and welcome to the Gods of Odds, hosted by two of my favorites, Brad Hoiseth and Dave Dabbah.
Welcome to the Gods of Odds. It is a week number 16 of your National Football League season. That is Brad Hoiseth over there in festive Southern California. I'm Dave Dabbah up in Northern California, and we, as always, are super excited to talk to you about the National Football League. We will give you our top 10 games worth actually spending some money on in a little bit. But Brad, before we dive into that, I know this has been a really strange year, but the Pittsburgh Steelers losing to the Bengals, and then the Jets, Adam Gase blowing the team's opportunity with Trevor Lawrence. You know, Sam Darnold's like, get out of my house. And the Jets actually go into Los Angeles and beat the Rams. I have to start the show off basically by swearing. Brad, what the hell is going on in the world today?
Yeah, it's weird. I have to issue not necessarily an apology, but an admittance that you were right on the Jets. You did receive plenty of texts from me before halftime. It was precisely what you said it would be. It would be that Jared Goff is a horrendous quarterback, and he's killing the Rams' chances of going anywhere. That's the bottom line. But hey, look, there were some big upsets last week. I had a terrible week. You didn't have much better, but you were good enough to take a one-game lead on me for the year. And, I think a lot of people took a bath last weekend. I mean, I don't think anybody saw the Steelers getting beat by the Bengals. That one was tough. But then again, the Rams just looking horrendous against the Jets. A little sidebar story on that. I lost my fantasy football semifinal by 1 point because I had the Rams defense, and I figured that was a sure 10 points at a minimum. But they got me a donut. I ended up losing by 1 point. Now I got to play for third place, Dabbah. So That's why I'm sitting in front of the Christmas tree today, because I'm hoping for some presents from Santa this week, and so I can take the lead over you. See, one of my favorite, right there. That's my Starbucks glass ornament. So I'm all jacked up on coffee. I'm ready to roll, man. I'm going to beat you this week.
All right. Well, the gauntlet has been thrown down by Brad Hoiseth. He's planning on trying to take me out this week. I think you'll find lots of disagreements in how we think things are going to go this week. With that being said, Mr. Hoiseth, why don't you give us our first to top 10 game worth actually spending some money on this weekend?
Yeah, it's two teams that I got both wrong last week. It's San Francisco at Atlanta. The Cardinals are a 5-point favorite. San Francisco now plays in Arizona. It's a place they've called home for 5 weeks. The Cardinals are riding a 2-game winning streak after going through a bit of a funky patch. They lost 3 in a row to the Seahawks, Patriots, and Rams. They bounced back with a couple wins. It's a critical game for Arizona. They're now 8-6, right in the mix for a wild card spot. The last time these two teams met was way back in week 1 when Arizona pulled off what at that point was an upset, if you remember, 24-20. This game should have a lot of a different feel. Arizona comes into the game fairly healthy. San Francisco, as we know, has been demolished by injuries. They're going to start C.J. Beathard at quarterback this week. Looks like Deebo Samuel's not going to be able to go. In the past 2 years, Shanahan's owned Kingsbury. This time around, I think Kingsbury finally gets the best Cardinals and give the 5 points.
Yeah, here's the thing. I love C.J. Beathard. I do, because you and I both probably. Well, I know I love Bobby Beathard as a GM in the National Football League, and C.J.'s his grandson. But the 49ers, like what happened last week in Dallas was shocking on a wide variety of levels. And we're going to cover the Dallas game here in a little bit as well. So I'll save sort of some of that Cowboys rhetoric, if you will, for that portion of the show. As I sort of look at this, I'm sort of taking what Brad would say, who actually really needs to win this game, and it's the Cardinals. And, I just have to believe that that the Cardinals are going to win it. I definitely feel they'll absolutely cover as well.
Another sidebar on this is I just saw that George Kittle was taken off IR. He's eligible to come back. They're saying he actually might play a few reps in that game. I don't quite understand why, they would do that, but that's their, future tight end, arguably, along with Travis Kelce, one of the best tight ends in the league. I'm not sure why he would risk injury at this point, but there are some thought that maybe he could play, a handful of downs this week.
Yeah. So Brad, when you started talking, CJ Beathard dropped back to pass. He launched the ball in the air, and Kittle is still waiting for it to get to him. So I think like it's just a bad idea to play Kittle at this point. Look, I love CJ Beathard. He's just a gamer, but to say he doesn't throw a fastball is an entirely accurate statement. And I have no idea why the 49ers would think it was a good idea to bring George Kittle. He should be retired for the year at this point for sure. All right, so let me dive into to my first big game of the week. And I wasn't really sure, Brad, where to sort of go with of the 5 games I'm picking, which would be the first game we were going to talk about today. And I decided that we're going to cover the Vikings at the Saints game. This is a game in which the Saints are favored by 7 points. Now, a couple sort of interesting things here that have happened at Mighty Rip in the last week. One, somebody, an anonymous source, might actually be on this podcast, posted a article about Kirk Cousins and how could you pay Kirk Cousins $33 million a year? And so I saw that, and I was like, God, when we get to Gods of Odds this week, and we're covering this Viking Saints game, I'm going to make it very clear to Brad that while I agree to some extent, $33 million is a lot to pay Kirk Cousins, the Vikings are in the situation that they're in, less because of Kirk Cousins, more because of the fact that they had like 3 returning players on defense. Cousins has sort of done what we would expect him to do. Like, none of us expect Kirk Cousins to be a top 10 quarterback in the National Football League. I expect him to be the 11th best quarterback in the National Football League. But when the defense is playing as bad as the defense has played, then you sort of get what you're going to get. That being said, when I look at this particular game, this is an absolute must-win for the Vikes. And I would also like to say this: a personal thank you to the Minnesota Viking organization for not phoning it in after that absolutely horrific start. As a fan of the Vikings, I am in week 16 with slim but still alive playoff hopes for this team. And that right there is all you can ask for as a sports fan, is that your National Football League team gets you into week 16 or 17 with at least a hope, some sort of hope that they're going to be able to do something moving into the playoffs.
So is that your prediction? Have you predicted the game yet, or are you just going to keep blabbing about Kirk Cousins?
The Vikes are definitely going to win this game.
Win the game or win with the – what are they getting, 7?
Yeah, they're getting 7.
Okay, all right. So I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah. I'm going to take the points. I'm taking the points.
Okay, good. Well, there were some things there that you said that I agreed with. First of all, I think if you're a Vikings fan and you still have a glimmer of hope after the start they had, I would agree that you'd have to be thrilled. But the defense, I think, is not played as well recently because of the loss of Eric Kendricks. And, there's some interesting things about this game. New Orleans is not going to have Michael Thomas. It sounds like they're not going to have Traquan Smith. But they have a very good defensive line, as we saw last week when they played the Chiefs. They can put a lot of pressure on you. Cousins does not do well under pressure. We've all seen that. But maybe the most important factor in this game, Dave, is how the Vikings have played on national television over the last 3 years. This is the only game going on Christmas. And we have seen some real horror shows out of the Vikings when they're the only show in town, let's just say. And, Drew Brees is still coming back off that pretty tough injury. And I just see them using Love and Kamara, a lot of, Jared Cook, the tight end. Taysom Hill, I think you're going to see it. But I think they'll probably try to get the running game going against the Vikings. The Vikings are, as you said, they're just not a very good defense right now. And without Kendricks, the middle of the field is going to be wide open. I see Drew Brees exploiting that quite a bit. I see Kirk Cousins, that phantom article that showed up on the Mighty Rip, mentioned Kirk Cousins second in the league right now in turnovers amongst quarterbacks. The guy that was first, Carson Wentz, is now on the bench. And you just can't turn the ball over that much. And I don't see any way for Kirk Cousins when the team gets behind, he seems to have zero ability to bring his team back from behind. And so it's the Saints at home. They're still playing for the number 1 seed. I think the Vikings' hopes are very, very slim. I'm going to take the Saints. I'll take the points.
Yeah. So there you have it, North America. It's the first. We picked 2 games so far, and it's the first game we disagree about. And I have to say, this is also partially a hope pick. So I will have to admit that that there's a little bit of hope and glimmer in my decision, which is always bad when it comes to placing bets. So keep that in mind when you go out and place your bet. All right, Brad, what do we got next?
Well, we got a really exciting one here. Cincinnati is at Houston. This line just kind of jumped out to me. Houston's an 8-point favorite. And granted,
I'm sorry, but how does that happen?
That's the question I'm asking, and what I wrote here was, maybe I'm missing something, but how is a 4-10 Houston team favored by 9 points over anyone? I understand the Bengals are on their third quarterback, but they're coming off arguably the biggest win the franchise has had in a few years. And if you can get stops against Chase Claypool and Juju Smith-Schuster and Ben Roethlisberger, you certainly can get stops against Kiki Kuti and David Johnson. Neither team has anything to play for but pride. Neither has a lot to be proud of, by the way. Separated by just a half game overall, I see no reason why this line is so high. It opened at 8.5. It's gone down a little bit. We have it at 8 points, which is making me taking the underdog Bengals. Give me the 8 points and the Bengals.
Yeah. Completely agree there. I looked at this and it was like, did this line come out before the Bengals took down the Steelers? I mean, it's like, when did this thing come out? Look, Houston, it feels like it's been 24 months since Bill O'Brien was relieved of his duties. So much has happened in the world since Bill has been relieved of his general manager duties. Yeah.
Marvin Lewis might get an interview for that job, by the way, Dabbah. One of your favorites. That's what I understand.
All right. So for those of you that know, I always like this scenario, this whole idea of a coach someday getting fired at halftime. And this is the perfect. I'm glad you brought this up, Brad. This is a perfect scenario for this to happen. Romeo Crennel, I think, is the interim head coach of the Houston Texans at this point. How great would it be for them to hire Marvin Lewis at halftime and bring him into the game to go up against his former team? Anyways, look, Cincinnati is the safer of the bad team picks here just because of the momentum that they're sort of bringing into this game. Same thing I've said in the last couple of weeks about the Texans not having Will Fuller there. It's just something that they can't overcome. And we don't need to talk anymore about the broken down truck that is David Johnson at this point. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was almost like Vegas is screaming for you to take the points, but which usually I get a little fearful of. But I just look at this as two really bad teams. You could have put the Bengals at -8. I'd have felt the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, really, who's to say one of them's 8 points better than the other?
Yeah. No, I got it. All right. So moving on to my second pick, Brad. We've got this is like let's just stay in this Cincinnati-Pittsburgh triangle for a second. I have the Colts at the Steelers. Now, if we went back and we listened to some of the tape, Brad was a big Colts fan sort of coming into the season, specifically because of their defense, not so much because of, Phillip Rivers, who has weathered the storm. I mean, he's added a couple more layers of leather to his skin this season in Indianapolis. And, as I sort of like looked at this game, I was like, what the hell is Mike Tomlin doing? What is going on with Big Ben Roethlisberger? I was on a different podcast the other day, and I said, it's like Big Ben has started his retirement, and he's well on his way into his retirement because that's how he's played. There was no concentration in that Steeler game. I understood that they were going to be a little bit overconfident going into the game, but these are professionals on both sides of the ball who are, trying to save their jobs. And, I will give Zach Taylor this. There has been no quit in the Cincinnati Bengals at all this year. So, but as I look at this game, this turns into an absolute must win for the Pittsburgh Steelers to, if anything, just sort of turn the ship around, which is really why I'm going with the Steelers in this one.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you here. It's very rare that you see a Steeler team with Mike Tomlin as the coach lose 3 in a row, especially when you start 11-0, or then to lose 3 straight is just really uncharacteristic of them, especially to lose to the Bengals and really get beat pretty soundly. Their offense has really not run the ball all that well all year long. It's been pretty non-existent. And defensive coordinators in this league catch up with you. They figure things out. But that one, I think, stunned just about everybody. I mean, the Rams have Jared Goff as their quarterback, so you could see that coming against the Jets. If it was gonna happen to one of those teams, the Jets, I can kind of see beating the Rams more than the Bengals beating the Steelers. But it's just the way the Steelers beat themselves. And so, it's really gut check time for them now. I mean, they were sitting in a situation where they were looking at the number 1 seed. Now they're potentially looking at having to play on the opening weekend of the playoffs. And they do get James Conner back this week, and I think that's a big addition. No offense to Benny Snell, but he's just not James Conner. I don't think either one of them are lights out running backs, but I think Conner is the guy that adds a little bit more in the passing game. Phillip Rivers doesn't do great against defenses that can rush the passer, although he's really gained some chemistry with a lot of the guys there. Jonathan Taylor started to run the ball well. But I'm with you. I think the Steelers need this. They got to get back to winning ways. Otherwise, that thing is going down a hill quickly. Yeah. I'm going to take the Steelers.
It's like some of the general managers in the National Football League remember, sort of one of the golden rules, which is, your running back is going to last 3 to 4 years. and that's sort of where we're at with James Conner. I loved him early in his career. as injuries start to mount, the running backs, don't, seldomly do what some of the greats have done in the National Football League. I mean, even Adrian Peterson at this point, who's been in the league for 10 years more than James Conner, is in better shape and is able to withstand the punishment of the National Football League. So I put some of this on the Pittsburgh Steelers organization for not reloading enough at running back, but it is a tough position to reload for, and it's also why they didn't want to deal with Le'Veon Bell and his contract. I mean, if you've seen Le'Veon Bell at all this year, how disappointed would you be as a Steeler fan if you were paying that guy, Ezekiel Elliott type money to do what he's done so far this season with the Kansas City Chiefs? I mean, he's lost two wheels, not one. And so that's really what I see here. But Pittsburgh's got to win this. They'll find a way to get it done.
All right, let's move on to my third game. This is, in my opinion, probably the game of the week, one of the better games of the week anyways, and it's Tennessee at Green Bay. The Packers are a 3-point favorite in that one. It's a Saturday game. If you like points, Tennessee and Green Bay should be one of the more entertaining games of the week. If you like defense, you may want to shut it off. Green Bay and Tennessee have an over-under of 56, which is the highest over-under of the week. For good reason. Aside from Seattle, no teams in the playoffs this season probably will have a worse defense than these two squads. Tennessee is an absolute mess on third downs. They're dead last in the league at getting stops. Green Bay has played one of the softest schedules in the league. They're just 1-2 against teams above 500, which is amazing to me. They've only played 3 games against teams above 500. The only times they've played really a legit quarterback this season, they gave up 38 to the Buccaneers, 30 to the Saints, 34 to the Colts. The only thing that could turn this thing sideways would have been the bad weather, but given it's a Saturday game, the snow is not supposed to come in until Sunday. This game will be about tempo, and I say the Titan defense will be able to get off the field enough times to allow Tannehill and company to catch up. I say take Green Bay in a game that could easily eclipse 60 points and give the 3 points.
Yeah. I was like, well, I haven't had time to go shopping for Brad this year, so I decided to get you a gift, Brad. And my gift to you this year is not taking the Packers in this game. You're down by 1 game in our head-on-head matchup for the 2020 National Football League season. And I thought, okay, I'm going to give Brad a gift. I'm going to give him the gift of the Titans. And I'm going to take the Titans in this one. Brad brought up some really good points about the Packers. Lots of good points there about Tennessee. The fact that the Packers and the reason I'm going, in all seriousness, the reason I'm going with Tennessee is it's just Tennessee's played a much more difficult schedule to this point. They're they're far more hardened than this Green Bay Packer team. Plus I'm still a little bitter that Aaron Rodgers couldn't get me one more touchdown for fantasy football last week. I just needed one more, Brad, and I'm like you, I'm playing for third now because of it, but I can't put it all on Rodgers there. But Tennessee is this is the kind of game they want to go win, and this is the kind of game that Mike Vrabel is going to have his team up for. And they're gonna. This is gonna be a lot. This is gonna be a close, good game. I agree with you. This is like the game of the week. I'm really curious to see, how the Packers figure out how to stop that Tennessee Titan offense. And I'm not talking about Ryan Tannehill. So with that being said, I'm going with Tennessee, and I'm comfortable with the pick as well.
Well, I'm glad to see that you're comfortable with that, Dave. No, I think it's a fun game. I can't wait to watch this one. I watched that Tennessee defense, and they're just bad, and they're just horrendous on third down. And Aaron Rodgers is just having the season of his life, the second best season of his life, actually. He's got the number one passer rating in the league. He's suddenly made Robert Tonyan a star at tight end. We all know about Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. I just feel like Tennessee's going to have a really hard time getting off the field. You know, somebody, I forget who it was, I was watching the game the other night, and it was the game with Patrick Mahomes playing, and they were trying to salt away the win at the end. And I think it was Tony Romo just said, you know, Jim, he's a finisher. And that's the way I feel about Aaron Rodgers. He's a finisher. I'm not a believer that Ryan Tannehill goes in there and gets that. I just have to go with the Packers in this one.
Yeah. All right, so we disagree on Brad's holiday gift, but that's okay. He's going to really enjoy it, you know, when it happens. All right, so moving on, Brad. So many different directions that we can go here, but I think I'm going to continue down. This would be like a small little gift that's in your stocking. This is the Broncos at the Chargers, and so if you take the Chargers, you got to give up 3 in this particular game. Now, when I looked at this, I was like, okay, I wonder, is this another game where we could have 2 coaches get fired at halftime? I mean, like, this is another one of those coaches get fired at halftime watch type game, because both of these coaches are on the hot seat. And while I think Anthony Lynn has a better chance of coming back next year than Vic Fangio, you know, I think both of these guys are going to be gone. I don't see Elway, you know, putting up with Vic too much longer. And I know how Brad feels about Anthony Lynn. It's just that, yeah, the Chargers are going to win a couple more games. They're going to win their last 2 games, and then Spanoses are going to sit there and go, oh, you know, it could be worse. It could be worse. So as we sort of look at this game, you know, I thought, well, Justin Herbert, you know, has been, you know, really good, you know, for the most part, most of the season. He had some a bad streak sort of kick in when he got his haircut, and then I was like, oh well, I wonder if that's true. You know, like he played. It seems like he lost a bunch of games after he got his haircut. So I went back and I looked earlier today, Brad, and so he got his haircut on November 18th. So if we were to take a look at how Justin Herbert has done since then, since November 18th, there was the one game where he actually still played well, which was against the New York Football Jets, but that is the Jets. Then he played absolutely horrific against Buffalo. If you remember what happened against New England, so now the hair's starting to grow a little bit. He's starting to come back onto his head, Brad. He started to play better again against Atlanta. And he played, you know, better against Las Vegas. But I mean, the point is, like, why make a change like that, Brad, in the middle of the season when you're having such a fantastic season? Why would you go and do something so drastic that would, you know, potentially take away from how good you've been on the field? That being said, Chargers are absolutely going to win this. I do not believe in your defense the way you do. I believe in the offense that the Chargers have. Justin Herbert is by far the most valuable rookie of the year in the National Football League this year. And, you know, it's, you know, I'm not one to brag much, Brad, but this is one I'm looking forward to bragging about when the announcement comes out.
So the big key here is whether or not the barbers are open this week. Is that if Justin Herbert gets a haircut this week, they're finished?
Like, you know, it's like if you find out between now and Sunday, or now and when you place your bet, if Herbert gets another haircut, the answer would be to put your money on the Broncos.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put my money on the Broncos. Yes, haircut or not. Hunter Henry's out, from what I understand. Keenan Allen is still dealing with that day-to-day hamstring thing, which was another one of those things that killed me in fantasy football last week. I had Keenan Allen in my lineup, and he looked like he was a half a player out there.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler doesn't look healthy to me. I have no idea what the Raiders were doing last week. That was another thing we didn't touch upon, is just how bad the Las Vegas Raider defense is. This is not the Raider defense. This is the Broncos. The Broncos could play some defense. I am with you. I think both coaches deserve to be canned at the end of the year. I think Anthony Lynn will be the first one gone, though, not Vic Fangio. I think Anthony Lynn will be gone within 24 hours after the final game of the year. But I think the Broncos are a better football team. The Chargers, I love Justin Herbert, but they're really nicked up on both sides of the ball. And, the Broncos still play hard every single week. Chargers, let's not forget they're still 2 weeks removed from getting beat 45-0 by the Patriots.
Yeah.
So they're capable of completely throwing in the towel. I'm going to take the Broncos and this weekend against the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, this is if you're a Charger fan at all, this is just typical Chargers, though. And you get into these last two games of the season, you've already sort of proved that you're not going to make the playoffs, and the team is going to tease you with hope. They're going to tease you with hope, and Keenan Allen, same thing. I had the ability to bench him last week, so he sat on the bench, which proved to be a good move. But I would have much rather played him if he had been healthy. I look at this and I think that Herbert is going to light up the Broncos secondary. Even without Allen out there, I think this is going to be a Charger win, not by a little, but actually by a lot.
All right, let's go on to my number 2 game. That's the Rams at Seattle. That's a big game. The Rams made it a big game. It would have been a big game either way, but now it's a really big game for the Rams. I'm playing the over-under in this one, which is 47.5. The last time these two teams played, the Rams won a defensive struggle, 23-16. This time around, both the teams seem to come into this game struggling a little bit on offense. Against the last 3 good defense that Russell Wilson's played against, that being the Eagles, Giants, and the football team, he's thrown just 3 touchdown passes and 2 interceptions in those games. The last time the two teams played, Russell Wilson, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. On the other side of the ledger, you have Jared Goff, who's a complete mess. Seattle has slowly been improving on defense with a healthy Jamal Adams. I see a lot of turnovers and not a lot of points. I'm going to take the under at 47.5. I just don't think either of these teams are going to be scoring a lot of points.
Yeah. If we were talking about this game 3 or 4 weeks ago, I would have called you crazy for taking the under on this game. But just as the world has turned, as this National Football League season has turned, we seem to be on the backside of the moon, if you will, at this point, and both the Rams and the Seahawks, we just don't know what you're going to get. Their offenses have been sputtering, as you mentioned. You brought this up earlier, but I'll just reemphasize that the text messages on my phone before halftime about Jared Goff lit up the way that beautiful tree is lit up behind you. It was comical. I think one of these teams is going to break out of their slump on the offensive side of the ball. I just don't think they're both going to. And I don't know what's going on with the Seahawks at this point. I can say the same thing about the Rams. So I was really happy you went with an over-under on this one, because I would have hated to have to pick a winner.
Yeah, I mean, Russell Wilson's struggling. Teams they now know how to defend him. It's just a matter of executing it. You got to keep him inside the pocket. And when you do that, his threats downfield, whether it's Lockett or Metcalf, become very much neutralized. They don't have much at tight end. Greg Olsen is way past his prime. Jacob Hollister is an okay little player, but he's not what I would call, a guy that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. One thing that alarmed me a little bit about the Rams last week was not being able to stop Frank Gore on the ground. I think the Rams have got one of the best defenses in the league, but I did not see that coming. So that's a little fearful on the over-under, because I think the Seahawks with Chris Carson have the ability to run the ball a little bit. But this is two teams that know each other very well. They know how to defend each other. I see it being more like a game we had the last time, which was 23-16. Maybe the Seahawks come away with a 24-23 win, something like that. But that would put us right at the over/under. It would be pretty tight. So I'm going to take the under.
Yeah. It is hard to believe that we're at this stage of the season. There's 8 years of footage of how to stop Russell Wilson in the National Football League. It's like we all know how to stop Russell Wilson. It's just like it seems like as the Seahawks got a couple of their running backs back, they changed up their offensive strategy, which has caused teams has caused the ability to sort of keep Russell in the pocket, which is obviously the way to do it. So, I think when they just make the conscious effort to roll Russell out in the same way the Vikings do with Kirk Cousins, because he can't sit back there at all, then we'll see a different Seahawks offense. But it's much harder to run that kind of style offense against this Rams defensive line. So I'm with you on the under in this. Okay, so moving on to my second to last game on my side of the fence. Brad, I've said it a couple times over the last couple weeks. I must apologize, but I love Kevin Stefanski. I love what Kevin Stefanski's done with the Browns this year. They haven't quite clinched that playoff spot yet. There's still the opportunity for a fat lady to sing, but they haven't quite done it yet. They're 10-4. 10-4, Brad, are the Cleveland Browns heading into Week 16 of the National Football League season. You would not have bet your house on that for a second. It's amazing the job that Kevin Stefanski has done with this Browns team. Now, on the other side of the ball, it's like Adam Gase can't even get fired the right way. Can't even get fired the right way. All they had to do was play mediocre football against the Rams. That's all they had to do to be to win the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. And what does he do? He screws the Jets, a team that should have canned him. Well, should have never hired him in the first place, but should have canned him at least 10 weeks ago. Then let him keep his job. And how does he repay the Jets organization? He hands the number 1 pick over to the Jaguars. I'm just saying, I don't believe Sam Darnold is going to be a top-tier National Football League quarterback for a second. I didn't believe it when he came out of the draft, and I still don't believe it today. He hasn't proven anything to me other than he's going to be a nice journeyman backup quarterback. Maybe he's got a little bit of that Ryan Fitzpatrick swag in him, so maybe he'll be great in that way. But certainly not a top 2 or 3 pick in the National Football League. So as I look at this game, it's the Browns at the Jets. The Jets are getting 10 points in this game. I think anybody that takes the Jets at this point against this strong Kevin Stefanski, well thought out offense, control with Baker Mayfield, one of the best running attacks in the National Football League, and an improving defense that happens to have one of my all-time favorite football players on it, Andrew Sandejo. The fact that is happening, to even consider going with the Jets is a mistake, and you will regret it. and you will see what I'm talking about when this game is played.
Well, I've made a lot of mistakes in recent weeks, Dave. I'm going to go with the hottest team in football, right? Your New York Jets. That's what I'm going to do. And nobody's hotter right now, Dave. The New York Jets got their longest winning streak of the season going. Their quarterback didn't turn the ball over. The Cleveland Browns are still the Cleveland Browns until they're not the Cleveland Browns. And clearly the Browns are a better football team here. I agree with you on Stefanski. I think he's done a wonderful job. Baker Mayfield is clearly playing the best football of his career right now. Stefanski's putting him in a place to win. But I've told you many times, Dave, those Jets play hard on defense. Yeah. And I'm going to do the unspeakable here. And I'm going to take the Jets in the 10 points. I say they're riding high. We didn't believe the Steelers could lose 3 in a row.
Yeah.
We don't believe the Jets can win 2 in a row. But at least I get 10 points for that 2 in a row. And I'm going to take the Jets because I learned my lesson last week. Don't ever bet against Sam Darnold. The thing about Baker Mayfield. I did some of this week. I put in some Brad Hoiseth style research. Coming into the show. I've noticed that, by the way. You almost make sense this week.
I know. It almost makes sense at times. It's always amazing too, because Brad is really gets into this stuff and does a fantastic job. But I was like looking at this and I'm like, Baker Mayfield, if you use ESPN's, QBR, they have their QBR metric, versus the quarterback passer rating. So Baker Mayfield in a quarterback passer rating that everybody else uses is like the 13th or 14th rated quarterback in the National Football League. If you use ESPN's QBR, he's the 5th ranked quarterback in the National Football League at this point. And what that really tells me is that Kevin Stefanski knows how to coach Baker Mayfield play in and play out, which is really what the QBR is all about and how it's set up and designed. It looks at basically every play and tries to create some sort of magical, pixie dust number around it. So I think, it's really going to be interesting. I mean, I think we both agree that Cleveland's going to win this game. It's just a question of, will they cover, will they be able to win by 10? And the answer is absolutely yes.
I just say don't believe all the mystique on Baker Mayfield just yet. I mean, last week they beat the Giants. They scored 20 points. The week before that, they had the big offensive explosion and they lost. The week before that, they beat a bad Titans defense. The week before that, they beat a bad Jaguars defense. This week they get a bad Jets defense. The next week, that's going to be the game. And here's the question. The Browns are still a fairly young team. Could they look past the Jets? Kind of like the Rams did. The Rams were looking past the Jets. They were looking at Seattle this week. The Browns, it could be a trap game. That's all I'm saying. Watch out for the trap game.
Hey, you know what? This just dawned on me. That this Cleveland Browns team is a lot like Will Ferrell in that great movie Old School, where he goes streaking through the quad. They are literally a streaking football team at this point, and they are on fire, Brad. They've got such. I can't even believe I have to say. I'm saying all of this about a Cleveland team, Indians. The Cavaliers. It's just hard for me to believe I'm doing all of this. But man, they've got a fantastic running game, a really strong offensive line, one of the smartest offensive coordinators who's a head coach in the National Football League. A lot of teams haven't figured out how to stop Kevin Stefanski yet. They will, but they haven't figured it out yet. The Jets certainly aren't going to figure it out, between now and then. It's like, and then we haven't even talked about, the improving, elements of the front side of the defense. I mean, the secondary is weak, but Sam Darnold's not going to be able to get anything back there anyways. So I look at this and I'm just so excited. I mean, I'm literally, and I might not even go like Red Zone channel. I might actually just sit there and just watch the entire game in its entirety.
Well, don't ever count out the pride of San Clemente. That's all I'm going to tell you, Sam Darnold. Hey, on to my final game. It's Buffalo at New England. And, the Bills are a 7-point favorite, and all I got to say is ding dong, the witch is dead. The Patriots are out of the playoffs for the first time since 2002. Suddenly, Buffalo finds themselves in a position where they could take home the number 2 seed in the AFC if they just keep winning. The last time these two teams played, Buffalo won a tight battle, 24-20. They did it with more with the run. They scored all 3 touchdowns on the ground. Since then, the Bills have become, one of the more pass-happy teams in the league. And now they get the Patriots squad missing one of the best players, the top corner, maybe the best corner in the league, Stephon Gilmore. On top of that, Buffalo's defense has been playing on a different level over the last few weeks. The coaching staff seems to be coming up aces on every game plan over the past 4 weeks. Over the past 8 weeks now, their only loss was on that Hail Mary play out in Arizona. So I say take Buffalo. They're a hot team. They got more to play for. I think the Patriots are officially done. I think they know it. They don't have a lot of talent. And I think the Bills will take care of business. I say take the Bills and give the 7 points.
Yeah. Last week on the show, I told you were going to be wrong if you took the Patriots against the Dolphins in that game. I said that Bill Belichick is working on his COVID golf plans in Jamaica. Yeah, made some vacation jokes about the New England Patriots. All of which definitely showed up on the field. There's also been all sorts of rumors since then that Cam Newton's going to retire. Blah 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 blah. I'm looking forward to the new sitcom. The new version of The Odd Couple that will star Cam Newton and Ben Roethlisberger in retirement. I think that would be an absolutely fantastic reality show. I know I would watch, Brad, religiously. Come on, MTV Productions. They need to get that thing going. I look at this and, something sort of bothered me about this game. And it was, the Patriots are don't have everything that they need to have to compete with Buffalo this particular week. Too many injuries sort of across the board. They're sort of phoning it in at this point. But it's so Bill Belichick to turn around, Brad, and to figure out how to, just shut down Josh Allen in this game. And I'm so tempted, Brad, I am so tempted to switch my pick on this game. I just am. I'm just so tempted, but I can't do it. There's money at stake. Everything is pointing towards a Buffalo Bills victory. The 7 points is what has me a little uncomfortable, for sure. But I am going to listen to what you've been saying about Buffalo because you've been, fairly accurate on that most of the season. And I'm going to go ahead and agree with you and take Buffalo in this one.
Well, what's been impressive really about the Bills in recent weeks is just how well their defense has played. They really bottled up Pittsburgh. They were kind of like the beginning of the bad ride for the Steelers. And, they bottled them up and, they went out there and got it done again this last week. And, they've played a really difficult schedule, have the Bills. You talked about Tennessee's schedule earlier on the show and how they're a little bit more weather tested, if you will, when it comes to playing difficult games. I think the Bills have played a number of tough games in a row now, and they just seem to be rolling through everything they play. New England did play hard last week. I mean, they had their chances to win that game with Miami. I don't think Miami's a great football team right now. But at the end of the day, a Miami team that didn't have a tremendous amount, I don't think has a tremendous amount of talent on offense, managed to generate enough points to score more than New England, who just has nothing on offense. There's just nothing there. And Buffalo's the kind of team that can score on 4 or 5 drives in a row. New England just doesn't have the personnel to keep up with that. So that's what I like about Buffalo. It is a Monday night game, which is a little bit different, but I'm okay with that. I say take the Bills and give the points.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Hoiseth, I think we're down to our last game. And we have the how about them Cowboys? We've got the first person to say that in 10 weeks, I think. Eagles at Cowboys in this one. Somebody has to be a favorite, Brad, which actually is the Eagles. But if you take the Cowboys, you get 2.5. This is a home game. I'm actually really surprised by how well Jalen Hurts has played, and it's almost as if and the reason I say that isn't that I didn't think he was a strong prospect coming into the NFL, but just in the short stints that they used him in while Carson Wentz was the starting quarterback, he just looked lost. He looked terrible. But as a starter in the National Football League, he's actually looked pretty good. Which is why I could see, people legitimately taking the Eagles in this game. That being said, I will admit it. I picked the Cowboys to go to the Super Bowl this year. They still have a chance of winning their division. They're in week 16. They are 5-9, and they still have a chance to win their division, Brad. I mean, that is bad football, man. That is just some bad football. Look, something turned around a little bit last week against the 49ers. I'm betting, whatever the conversations that were between the Emperor, Jerry Jones, and his apprentice, Mike McCarthy, whatever those conversations were like, that lit a fire somehow into the Cowboy team. I mean, you didn't expect the Cowboys to put up as many points as they did last week, even against that 49er team. You certainly expected them to give up the points, but you didn't expect them to come out and play as strong as they did on the offensive side of the ball. I think that carries over this week. I think Mike McCarthy needs this win. I don't see Jalen Hurts pulling it off once again.
Yeah, the 2 of the last 3 games, the Cowboys have actually played pretty decent football. Remember, they beat the Vikings, and they actually played well in that game, I thought. I didn't think it was a matter of Cousins giving the game away or the Vikings giving the game away. I just thought they got to play by the Cowboys. I think all these teams in that division have improved to a certain degree. They're all pretty much underwhelming on offense. But I think Jalen Hurts looks really good. And I think that presents some problems for the Cowboys defensively that maybe they didn't think about a couple weeks back. And I don't know that the Cowboys are capable of playing 2 really good defensive games in a row. And they were playing the 49ers last week with, a decimated lineup. So you have to put things into perspective a little bit. I think they're both 2 pretty poor football teams. I think that the Eagles, however, have the X factor in Jalen Hurts. I think he's a guy that can run for 125 yards. He's suddenly making guys like Greg Ward look like good players on offense. That's the future. Carson Wentz, I don't think is ever getting his job back in Philadelphia. And I think it all starts right here with a win over the Cowboys. I think who's the favorite in that game? What's the line on that?
It's the Eagles are favored by 2.5.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think the Eagles win this game by a touchdown, and I'm going to take the Eagles and Doug Peterson over a team that I think has been underwhelming for the most part all year long. They've played better in recent weeks, but I think the Eagles are a better football team, and I think they just have the X factor with Jalen Hurts. I think he makes a few plays this week. I think it's a sloppy football game. I don't think anybody scores more than 28, but I like the Eagles.
Yeah. Okay, so Brad brings up some really good points about Jalen Hurts, and I just think that First of all, Carson Wentz never getting his job back in Philadelphia. I completely agree with that. Look for him to be the next Viking quarterback. It's just like he's going someplace and somebody's going to pay him starting quarterback dollars.
The funny thing about this is you hear some of these guys and you see reports out there that Doug Peterson says that Jalen Hurts will start again this week. Well, who else is going to start? I mean, really? The kid has been genius for 2 straight weeks in his first 2 starts. He's done almost nothing wrong.
Look, he's just trying to dispel a rumor that they were trying out a yes man at from Walmart in the parking lot the other day, who throws a nice tight Nerf spiral. They're like, of course Jalen Hurts is going to start. You're absolutely right. Who else are they going to start? I saw something online the other day, and I just didn't even bother to click on it because it seemed so stupid. And it was like, hey, here are the 5 options for quarterbacks that the Vikings could go with in the future. And I'm like, come on, it's like it's ridiculous. How do you know, at this point of the season who's even going to be available or not available? Other than Carson Wentz will have to, if he wants to stay in Philadelphia, he's going to have to take a serious pay cut to do it and be willing to be the backup quarterback. And there's too many other bad teams in the National Football League for him to do that. He's a really nice guy. I know that. But he's not that nice. He's got to take some money. He's got to make his money while he can.
Hey, let me tell you something. People in Philadelphia don't care how nice you are.
Yeah, right. That's the last place.
It's the only stadium where there's a jail below.
Yeah,
okay? Yeah. And they were known to have booed Santa Claus for about 30 years. So I think Carson Wentz is fortunate that there was no fans in the stands this year in Philly.
Yeah. No, he really was. I think he would have been benched earlier in the season. I think this is another sort of COVID impact type thing. He would have been gone a lot earlier had there been actual fans to somehow. I guess that matters. Like they've witnessed it in person versus seeing it on television. It's like there's not as much pressure on the coaching staff by the heckling fans to make the move. So it came down to the really came down to the media to make that thing happen. All right. Well, so those are our top 10 games, worth spending some money on this particular week. I mean, it is fabulous that we've made it to week 16 of the National Football League season, Brad. Any final comments before we get into this big holiday weekend?
Well, just a reminder, this is a Wednesday that we're doing the show on. And so, as I've been saying for a number of weeks, wait until Saturday to find out who's playing and who's not. We did it on Wednesday. I'm sorry, it's Thursday, actually.
Yeah.
It's a Thursday that we're doing the show on. Wait till Saturday. Wait as long as you can. We did it. We wanted to do it before the Christmas Day game, and obviously we weren't going to tape a show on Friday, Christmas. So take your time out there. But hopefully you don't have as bad a week as I had last week, Dave, because the upsets got the best of me. I didn't see the Steelers thing coming. I didn't see the Jets thing coming. I didn't see the Raiders completely throwing in the towel, it seems, on defense. And so hopefully we'll do a little better this week. You got me by 1 game, but I plan on getting the best of you here on Christmas weekend.
Yeah. All of that's accurate. I don't think anybody really saw that Cincinnati Steelers game, sort of going down the way it went down. I think it was sort of a shock to the system, watching the Steelers sort of go down the way they went down. One thing I wanted to point out that you mentioned earlier, we treaded on it a little bit last week. I basically will want to just end it on this particular topic, which is John Gruden probably isn't worth $10 million a year as a head coach of a National Football League team. Whether or not you're happy as a Raider fan being Brad, 7-7, you've got some really decent, weapons on the offensive side of the ball. You would have expected this team to play a little bit better this year than they have played. I predicted that this is what this team was going to be because of John Gruden as the head coach. Look, you can only knock on wood so many times, and eventually that takes its toll and runs out with its players. So I think, I think his message is strong at the beginning of the season. It carries over to the middle of the season, and then by the end of the season, he turns into the Charlie Brown teacher. That you can't understand what that teacher's saying. That's where John Gruden is as a head coach in the National Football League.
I like Gruden as a coach. I just think he's much more entertaining when he doesn't have to wear a mask. I would have loved to have seen that second half without a mask last week. That would have been worth the price of admission right there. But they just, they had a long ways to go. I think they were a pretty significant surprise at the beginning of the year as well as they played. But they clearly ran out of steam as the season went on. The defense is just got holes everywhere right now, and they can't stop anybody. They look worse than the Seahawks did earlier in the season. So they know what they've got, and they got a good crew there. I like Mike Mayock, and I do think he and Gruden get along well. I'm not sure Derek Carr is the long-term answer there, but he has his moments where he looks pretty good. Offensively, they've got a lot of talent. They just need to get things figured out on the defensive side of the ball if they're gonna succeed in the division that has the Chiefs and the Chargers and teams like that that can score points at will. You got to get stops, and I'm still trying to figure out how they beat the Chiefs. How they were the one team that beat the Chiefs. I'm not quite sure how that happened. But they got a long ways to go on the defensive side of the ball. But I do like Mayock. I think he's done a nice job there early on. I'm not sure if Gruden's a long-term coach. I'm not sure if he wants to be there long-term, but got to get that mask off John Gruden. He's way more entertaining to watch.
Yeah, no, he is. And, great in the broadcast booth as well, for sure. All right. Well, that is it for our Week 16 Gods of Odds broadcast, where we gave you the top 10 games worth spending some money on. Make sure you check out the big mighty.rip website for some independently produced sports content. And you never know what's going to show up on the site. Basically new content on a daily basis. So do check that out when you have a chance, and head over to the merch store where you can get yourself some Gods of Odds merch, as well as some pretty cool Mighty Rip stuff. Look, with the start of the National Basketball Association season, one of the things I like most in the merch store is the basketball gear. Just check it out, and you'll know what I'm talking about. Anyways, for Brad Hoiseth in beautiful Southern California, where at times during today's broadcast you could see the sun shining through. That's Brad Hoiseth. I'm Dave Dabbah from Northern California, wishing you all a fantastic and healthy and happy holiday season, and enjoy the rest of your sports week.
God here, and thanks for tuning in to the Gods of Odds. For more semi-witty sports commentary, please make sure you check out mighty.rip. Okay, go ahead and kill the music now.